everyone. I welcome you all to today's session. So today's topic of discussion is Unit 15 Ancillary Services. So you all know that bank has some primary services like acceptance of the deposit for the purpose of lending loan. But there are some ancillary functions also which are provided by the bank. Now we are discussing in this chapter about the add-ons function which has been given in this case. Okay, so let's start discussing with the very first thing like the remittance. So remittance is very simple. You must know remittance means transfer of fund from one branch of a bank to another branch of the same bank or different bank. That can be known as the remittance, and the remittance can be done by the bank, and the customer can avail this facility via demand draft, mail transfer, telegraphic transfer, NEFT, RTGS at some specific charges. So remittance is a facility that has been given by the bank nowadays for transferring fund from one bank to another. Next, if we talk about the demand draft and banker's check. So bank draft, first of all, it is a negotiable instrument. Negotiable instrument means it is a transferable instrument, and it is an order that is drawn by one branch of a bank instructing another branch to pay a certain sum of money in the order of that person. For example, you have to submit a money to somewhere else. You can make a demand draft or bank draft. It actually specifies, or a branch of a bank is ordering another branch, okay, within the city or within another city, that you have to make payment to the person specified in the bank draft or to a certain person. That is known as the bank draft, which is considered as a negotiable instrument, and it is the ancillary services that has been given by the bank. Banker's check. Banker's check are issued for making local payment, including those on the behalf of the customer. So bankers check are for what? Are for making the local payment on the behalf of the customer. Now bankers check are generally for used for which of the following transactions, like at the request of the client. If the client is requesting to make some payment, bankers check can be used by the bank or issued by the bank for dispersing that payment. Next, payment of the balance to the deceased account. It means that if there is any person who is now no more, the payment, if this payment has to be transferred to their legal heir, then bankers check can be utilized. Payment various contractors, service contract and purchase made by the bank. If all this has been made by the bank, then the bank can issue the banker's check. It means that the bank has to make payment to the contractor, service contract, or any purchase that is made by the bank. The payment can be done by the banker's check. Payment on statutory dues like electricity bill. Now, if bank has to pay the statutory dues like electricity bill or any other, it can be paid through the banker's check. Lastly, all the local payments to be made by the check other than cash. So these are all the payments that has been made by the banker's check. Banker's check are issued by the bank for making out some local payments or the disbursement of the local payments. Okay. Now next, if we talk about the issue, when we are talking about the bank draft or demand draft, in order to maintain the security, in order to avoid the money laundering, in order to avoid any type of terrorist financing or any type of such activity, it is a provision under the prevention of money laundering regulations and rules that the demand draft and the banker's check, whose value is 50,000 and above, should be made through banking channels and not in cash. So if you have a amount of bank draft or demand draft which has more than 50,000 of value, it is made through a banking channel, through one account to another account, not in cash. Now, payment of any demand draft or banker's check of rupees 20,000 and above shouldn't be made in cash and only through a credit to a bank account. Now, if this amount is 20,000 and above, then it is strictly prohibited that it shouldn't be made in cash, and the transfer should only be made through a credit from one account to another account. So earlier, the limit was 50,000. That 50,000 and above shouldn't be made in cash. But now the limit is 20,000. That the 20,000 and above, the payment of the banker's check and demand draft shouldn't be made in cash. It is made only through the credit from our bank account. Bank draft and banker's check and demand draft, this can be issued with the account pay crossing if the amount is 20,000 and above. Now, if there is a demand draft and bank check whose value is 20,000 and above, the demand draft must contain a cross pay account pay crossing. It means that this should be credited directly into the bank account and not in cash. And so it is the requirement of the demand draft and banker's check. Now, the name of the purchaser that is mentioned on the face of any of these instruments, these are valid only for 3 months and can be revalidated or reissued by the issuing branch. But a demand draft is revalidated only once and within 1 year from the date of issue. If this 3 months has been passed, now it has been revalidated from any branch or issuing bank, but it can be revalidated only once and within a year, and after that it is cancelled. So these are the different provision of the demand draft and a banker's check. Okay, now next, NEFT and RTGS. You all know that what is NEFT and what is RTGS. National Electronic Fund Transfer and Real-Time Gross Settlement. Now, the difference between these two. First of all, the minimum amount to be transferred is rupees 1. Now, if you are saying, ma'am, there is no minimum amount in NEFT, it is wrong. You must transfer rupees 1 at least. Here, RTGS 2 lakh. NEFT, there is no limit in the maximum amount. Here, there is no limit. Here, settlement is done in batches. Here, settlement is one-on-one. Here, time taken for the settlement is 2 hours. Here, the settlement is immediate. Next, transfer timing, it is available. Both are available 24/7, 365 days, including bank holidays. Mode of transfer, it can be both online as well as offline. RTGS can be done both offline as well as online. You can submit the request at the bank for the RTGS offline, as well as you can do it online via app or any other thing. Additional charges, here there is no charges applicable. There is some charges like rupees 30 on the transaction if the amount is done between 2 to 5 lakh, and 55 on the transaction of more than 5 lakh. Clear? Okay. Next, if we're talking about the electronic benefit transfer scheme. Now see, if you are all the beneficiary of certain government scheme, now government scheme has announces, there are different government schemes which has been announced. For example, for pregnant women, the government has submitting 2,000 rupees, for 3,000 rupees for every trimester, or for malnutrition children, or for unemployed youth. So there are certain schemes of the government in which the beneficiary can receive the amount through the government. Now, electronic benefit transfer is used for that. Now, if the government wants to transfer any amount to the beneficiary of the scheme at once, now the government can use this electronic benefit transfer, which aim to transfer subsidies and cash benefit directly to the people who have the Aadhaar seeded bank account. It means that their bank account is linked with their Aadhaar number. Now, the electronic benefit transfer functions on one district, many bank, one leader model. Clear? So the main objective is to facilitate the transfer of the payment from the government to the beneficiaries under any government scheme. Okay, done. Next, what are the ancillary services that the bank has been now offering, like safe deposit locker? You must have remember when I have teach you the concept of lessor and lessee. Okay, so bank has a safe deposit locker, and bank can give this locker to the customer on a lease, and the customer on the behalf of this locker provides some lease rental to the bank. Now, in this case, the relationship between the bank and the customer, the bank is a lesser because bank is giving that safe deposit locker to the customer on lease, and the customer is leasing. Customer can use this locker for the uh, security of their valuable items like jewelry or precious stone or any other papers again. Okay, now hiring out the locker. If you are in a process for hiring a locker, then first of all, customer due diligence is required. Overall complete profile of the customer checking is required. KYC is done, allotment of locker, then the locker agreement is done, then you have to pay the locker rent. Lastly, the term deposit. If you have any term deposit, this term deposit is taken as the security in the case of safe deposit locker. And always remember, the relationship is between lessor and lessee. Lessor is the bank and lessee is the customer. Okay, in this case, clear? Next, if we talk about the infrastructure and security, so how the infrastructure and security should be there in a locker area. For example, first of all, there should be a strong room, strong vault should be properly prevent from any customer break-ins. Complaint of unauthorized access, so there should be CCTV cameras around. So if there is any unauthorized access in that deposit locker area, it must be reported to the top management. The area should be protected from the water and the fire protection. The local standards, the mechanical lockers and the safety keys should be there. The room in which there are lockers, it should have a mechanical locker, and that should be as per the standards that is described by Bureau of Indian Standards. Lastly, locker key. So there are two keys you must know. One is with the customer and one is with the bank or the person who is in charge of that locker. Okay, so these are the safety and security of the infrastructure that need to be taken care in, especially the area which have the lockers. Okay, so must have a strong room, unauthorized access of complaint, CCTV protection, water and fire protection, locker standard safety. This all should be there. Okay, now if we talk about the nomination facility, how the nomination can be done. So for example, I have a safe deposit locker. If I have a joint account, if I have a single account, now how can I make a nominee for this locker? First of all, section 45ZC to section 45ZF of the Banking Regulation Act deals with the nomination facility. This is important. This you need to learn. This you need to remember. Okay, now if we talk about the single operated locker, the nomination can be made to only one individual. If you are a single holder, the account is the single holder account, then the nominee of the holder should be only one person. Two or more joint hirer can nominate one or more person. If there is a joint account and the locker is associated with joint account, the nominee can be two or one or more person. Photograph of the nominee, it should be obtained at the time of the nomination, when the nomination has been given. The nomination form should prescribe all the rules, the impression, the attestation, the signature by two witnesses is required when you are giving the nominee facility or the authority to the nominee. Acknowledgement of the form for nomination, cancellation and variation should be given. So these are all the cases for the nomination facility. Okay, so for joint account there can be more than one nominee. If you are a single holder, you should have only one nominee. Okay, now if you want to change nominee, acknowledgement form should be there. If you want to give authorization to nominee, the self attestation as well as the signature, all things should be verified and done in the presence of two witnesses. Okay, lastly, photograph of the nominee should be available to the bank. Okay, done. Next, closure and discharge of a locker item. Now, when the locker is not operated for a very long time, now what is the responsibility of the bank in this case? So, in certain situation, now bank have the requirement to break the locker. Now, what are the requirements? First of all, the hirer, if the hirer loses the key and requests for the opening of the locker. If I have the locker, but I have lost the key, now I can request the bank to break the locker. Now, in this case, the bank can break the locker. The government authority enforces to break down or seize the locker. Or if, for example, there is some income tax authority. Now, the income tax authority has some suspicious thing that, okay, this locker may contain some illegal item, and through this the government has authorizes or given authority or ordered the bank to break the locker. Now, in this case, bank has the responsibility to abide by the rules or by the order of the government. Now, if the bank is of the view that there is a need to take back the locker and the hirer is not cooperating with the terms and condition, now this can also be the case. The bank feels that now they should take back the locker and the hirer is not cooperating with the bank. Now, in this case, bank can break the locker. So these are the cases in which the bank can break the locker in the absence of the hirer. For example, I am the owner of that locker. I am not present with the bank, and if any of these situation arises, bank can legally break the locker in the absence of mine also. Okay, done. Okay, next, closure and discharge. First of all, if the discharge of a locker content, if the locker remains inoperative for a very long time. So if the locker is remains inoperative for approximately 7 years, now in this case, the lock hirer and the lock hirer is not being located, and the rent is, even if the rent is being regularly paid, now the bank has the liberty to transfer the locker content to the nominee or legal heir or dispose of in a transparent manner. Now, if I have paying the rent regularly, okay, but the locker is inoperative for a very long time, say 7 years, and the holder of that locker is not traceable by the bank. Now, in this case, the bank can transfer the content of the locker to the nominee or dispose of the material in a transparent manner. Okay, now in this case, they can do so. Next, discharge of a locker content by the bank due to the non-payment of a locker rent. So, if the rent is not paid by the customer in 3 years in a row, and after giving proper time and even notice to that customer, he or she is also now also not paying or clearing up the rent of the locker. Now, in this case, bank can what? Bank can public or issues a public notice in at least two paper. First of all, they have to issue the notice in at least two newspaper, and this give a reasonable time to the locker hirer to be present at the bank. Or if they are not present at the bank can discharge the content of the locker in a transparent manner and then give this locker to another one. So if the rent has not been paid for 3 years in a row, then this can be the condition. Clear? Now, next, custodial services. So what is custodian? A custodian bank is a financial institution that hold customer securities for safekeeping to prevent them being stolen or lost. The custodian may hold stock, bonds, or other asset in electronic or physical form on the behalf of the customer. So a bank can provide a service of a custodian bank also. Custody means a bank is having a asset of the customer in their safe custody so that it can be protected from any lost or being stolen. Okay, now in this case, the bank is responsible for safety of that asset of the customer. The asset can be the bonds, stock, or other asset that can be stored in either electronic or either in the physical form on the behalf of the customer. Now, in this case, the relationship between the customer and a bank is of bailee and bailer, and the customer is the bailer and the bailee is the bank. Why? Because see, in this case, the customer is giving their valuable asset to bank for their safekeeping. Now, in this condition, the bank is actually serving the facility of a custodian bank. It means the bank is responsible for the safety of the asset that the customer has given to them, like bonds or stock or any other. And this can be stored in physical as well as electronic form. Now, in this case, bailer, the customer is actually the bailer who is giving their valuable assets to bank, and the bank is the bailee. Okay, now the service provided by the bank as a custodian are usually for the settlement, safekeeping and reporting of customer securities. Okay, now this is contractual and the services are performed for a different purpose and fees. Okay, next, if we talk about the portfolio management services. Now, portfolio management services is also a type of service that has been provided by the bank. What is portfolio? When a bank suggests you to invest your money in different financial instruments. So, the complete profile on which your money is being invested, it is known as portfolio. Means, for example, I have my portfolio is this. It means that I have invested my money in this stock. So the complete profile of my investment is known as portfolio. And the bank is providing the services of portfolio management services to its customer. It means that banks suggest the customer to invest their money in different financial instrument of capital as well as money market to maintain their profile, to maintain their portfolio in a good and a returnable manner. And that's why bank can serve as a portfolio management services. Okay, now there are certain RBI guidelines for this. Bank can only advise to the customer. There is no guarantee that has been provided by the bank for a return. Bank can only suggest you that okay, you can invest in this and this and this. Bank can not guarantee a return to a customer. This is the first and the very basic guideline of a RBI. Second, the service is always for the long term investable fund, and the period of the investment amount should be at least 1 year and above. Clear? Done. Now, the last thing is government business. Now, there are different government businesses also which has been managed by the bank. For example, bank can collect central or excise custom. Bank can collect the direct taxes also, wealth tax also. They can open the public provident fund account also, handle the treasury work also, open the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare account also, payment to any central or state pension, government pension also, payment to post office receipt and payment account also. So these are all the services of the government that has been handled by the, so these are the ancillary services of the bank. Bank can provide you the remittance facility, NEFT, RTGS, safe deposit locker. Bank can offer you the portfolio management services. So these are the add-on services, means other services of the bank, which is apart from their main services. Okay, so this is the complete chapter. Now I hope that you have enjoyed this chapter. Just please keep on giving feedbacks and rating to the session. Thank you so much. Take care, everyone. Bye bye, guys. Take care.